Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by ButtKicker, are ready to race.
Lionheart IndyCar Series heads back to the scene of its most infamous race, the one only referred to by the phrase, "Remember the 17." With the season winding down, there are no shortages of challenges, and today at America's legendary oval, it might just be the toughest race of the year. Welcome to the Magic Mile, and welcome to the Next Level Racing Milwaukee 200, presented by ButtKicker. Hello everyone, and welcome back to RaceSpot TV for coverage of your 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined alongside in the RaceSpot TV commentary booth by the one and only Adam Crane, and the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. let's dive straight into our ButtKicker pre-race show, and of course coming off the back of a rather intriguing race at the Barber Motorsports Park, which of course saw Philip Kraus run away at the front. We head back-to-back racing, this time at the short oval, the Milwaukee Mile, and Adam, there is perhaps no better disparity of tracks that illustrates the diverse set of challenges that drivers face in American open wheel racing.
Hi Arjuna, thank you so much for having me on RaceBot again. Absolutely, these drivers are going to literally have the opposite challenge here, driving at the Milwaukee International Speedway, going from Barber Motorsports Park, fast flowy road course, to a high-speed oval. Just exactly the kind of challenge that the IndyCar schedule presents, and with this Lionheart IndyCar series, definitely part of the challenge and joy of running in a series like this.
Here's a look at that next level racing schedule with just a handful of races left to go, 3 after this, and they do tend to get a little bit more spread out before that double point showdown. Of course, after this, it's a trip to the Kansas Speedway, a globe-trotting trip around the world to Phillip Island, where we saw a blockbuster race. Last time around, it will play host to the final road course race of the season. We will decide our road champion. And then in the middle of December, all roads, as always in Lionheart competition, will lead to Auto Club, where we will crown Phil Kraus a champion. It is very much a coronation of a couple of races for him. Here's a look at the ButtKicker driver standings, and it is now, well, almost 300 points that splits Kraus from those behind. But it's a rookie sweep of the podium, and it is still close. Connor Harrington has jumped in front of Adam Blocker, who will be missing a second consecutive race. But really an opportunity for the likes of Van der Sat and Malechka to shine at a track which really suits their driving styles, Adam.
Oh, for sure. Both Alex and Robert are fantastic road racers and oval racers, and being from the Power Slide stable, you got to anticipate that there's going to be a little bit of firework here, maybe a little bit of teamwork, but I'm sure once we get down to crunch time, they'll be fighting for the second spot in the championship for sure.
And, well, it's been, what now, a year and 10 months of the private label Team Hype at the front of the HyperX Team Championships, and with time running out for Power Slide Adrenaline to close and Adam Blocker missing it, like I said, another round, it does look indeed as though the private label Team Hype will defend their championship from 2021. Still close in the battle for third, with Power Slide Ignition trying to latch onto the back of the Synergy Motorsports Silver Team, while a little bit further back, Team Race First have jumped in front of Graphics LPM as those outside of the top 5 continue to fight. But Ascari Autosport, down to just 2 drivers, have a lot of work to do with just 4 races left to play. A look at the ButtKicker team standings, and with 3 rookies at the front of the overalls championship, it's no surprise to see something similar here. But let's give a shout out to the likes of Caleb Bensi, Andrew Marquez, and Matthias Kraus, who are even in front, Adam, of someone like Adriano Pinheiro, who has plenty of hype around him, is so experienced in this car, started with 2 pole positions, but he just really struggled to find his footing in this series.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic job by those guys. Adriano's pedigree in the IndyCars really, really well known, given his successes in the Fix Series on the iRacing official series. So really great job by those guys being ahead of Adriano. Adriano's going to have to do some work if he wants to actually get some higher level results racing in this series for sure.
This is a track where maybe we can expect Adriano to mix things up with strategy, and indeed that might be the story of the race. A look at your Gomez Sim Industry Series details in Season 10 of this Lionheart IndyCar Series. Of course, we're celebrating 9 years of this Lionheart Racing Series. It's been a long road with so many races and so much history, which we always enjoy talking about. We campaigned the latest American open wheel machine, the Dallara IR18, with a custom fixed setup built by RaceBot's own Andrew Kinsella. And here on the ovals, drivers will get not just the anti-roll bars at the front and the rear of the car, but the weight jacker as well. We'll talk more about that in a few moments' time. Your season champion will walk away with a Gomez Sim Industries Formula Pro Elite rim, as well as a Next Level Racing GT Track cockpit as part of their share of what is over $10,000 in cash and prizes. We pay out double points for our Triple Crown races, with 1 champion to be dethroned in Adam Blocker and 1 champion in the private label Team Hypes, looking ready to continue the streak. Let's have a look at your Moser Racing event details, though, as we return to the Magic Mile for the 8th time. It is very much a staple, but it's a tricky old track, and only once has a winner emerged from outside of the top 3, because passing is always difficult. It means strategy plays its ground, especially given that you lose laps under green flag running. Remember the 17, we've got to talk about it. 17 cautions. Yes, it can be a slow toil of a race, but it can also develop close finishes, 600ths the margin back in Season 7. The last winner here was not in Season 8, it was 2021 when Adam Blocker came out on top here. But really, Adam, got me confused there because it's Adam and Adam in the booth. As we look from up above, both sets of the track here cause different challenges, and being proactive with the tools, especially that weight jacker, is going to be oh so important.
Absolutely. The balance is going to be very different on these cars between the one half of the track and the other. Turn 1, Turn 2, typically you want to have a faster entry, where Turn 3 and 4 you want to have a faster exit out of 4, down to Turn 1 to make sure that you have a good passing opportunity. You're going to really find that entering 2 and entering 3 and entering 1 are really going to be the prime passing opportunities. But the weight tracker is going to be one of the most important tools these drivers have, other than their own cunning and technical skill in the cars, in order to try to facilitate passes. But the tires and the way that they wear at this track is going to be so important to make sure that they have the durability to last a whole run, and the fall off we're expecting here to be reasonably high, given the grip level of the track surface and also the track temperature. So we'll have to see how the drivers manage the tools that they've got during the course of the race.
It's not Phil Kraus that sits at the top of practice right now. It's Joshua Chin, who joined late in this practice session. It's a track where we do know that Chin will go fast. Qualifying runs may be attempted by some of our drivers as well. Let's talk very quickly about weather conditions as we get ready to go, because it's a scorching day here at the Milwaukee Mile. 23 degrees in the air, but a toasty 42 degrees on the track. And with the speeds, the loads that will go through those tires, and not a lick of cloud cover, drivers are going to be glad that, Adam, we're racing into the evening here on iRacing Day.
Absolutely. iRacing is one of the best sims in that it's got that dynamic weather, so the track temperature will drop as the sun drops down below the horizon and behind the grandstands. We got a wind a little bit gusting out of the west, so that's going to be a crosswind into Turn 1 and a headwind into Turn 3. So the driver's going to have a lot more grip. They're going to have to really manage the race and how they drive the cars entering 3 into 4, and then not too hard and high in that weight jacker entering 1 and through into 2 to make sure that they keep some stability in the rear of the car.
In some ways, short tracks, I think, are easier for road course people to get up to speed with, just because it's more demanding. And I always say the easiest oval for a road course driver to get to grips with is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You compare it to somewhere like Homestead, for example, where this Lionheart IndyCar Series traditionally starts its campaign. Adam, it's a very different kettle of fish.
Absolutely. The track at Homestead's got high banking, different levels of banking in turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but this isn't all that dissimilar in that you really have to use the momentum of the car, a little bit of braking in order to get the car wound up so that you still have a little bit of front grip entering 1 and entering 3. So it'll definitely be an interesting challenge, but the transition from road course to oval is quite a bit easier here. Another track similar is Gateway, which we know the real-life IndyCar drivers who are experienced on the road courses tend to do well at.
So let's see what John Baderfer is going to be able to do. That's the reason we're kind of talking about that. The 67 Alpine Stars geodesic racing machine will roll as one of 26 here at a 5-minute qualifying session. The drivers get the track to themselves and 2 attempts, so it's always interesting how they approach lap 1 versus lap 2, and even more interesting to note that with the time continuing to tick by, sometimes indicating that track temperatures are going to go down, Alexander Van der Sande is not waiting around in qualifying and immediately electing to go out there and push it. Already on lap number 1, looks like he's pushing on this one. Adam, is lap 1 going to be the fastest?
We'll have to see here. The front tires are probably going to take a little bit to bed in. I'm sure Alex is probably thinking putting in a quick time as early in the session as he can, put a little bit of pressure on those other drivers expected to be toward the top is probably the play. But as he gets really, really wide there on the exit of 2, entering 3 here, let's see how he handles. Very nice line there, right towards the curb there on the bottom. Washes all the way out there to the wall. Let's see what this lap is.
21.744. Now Joshua Chin did a 21.8 on his first lap, and here comes the King of Chins, fastest in practice, and with a 21.6 immediately rips the pole away from Alexander Van der Stant, and it's not even close. A tenth of a second at a track like this is an eternity. Now we turn our attention to Matthias Kraus, who starts his second lap, who's had an impressive summer, now looking to continue that in the fall, trending well on lap number 2.
Yeah, I've raced Matthias a lot. He's quite a skilled competitor, so it's really cool to see him running in this series, despite being in Germany. So drivers are all over the place as far as time zones. He comes across the line with really good lap there to pop into P2.
So now we see if anyone can best the King of Chins. It might be Philip Kraus, who has been on a run of form in 2022 that is miraculous. It's hard to describe just how impervious to bad luck Kraus has been in this campaign, Adam.
Very Verstappen-esque, given how the F1 season has gone this year. Phil has been an absolute monster on pretty much every track that Lionheart has gone to. Road course, street circuit, short oval, big oval. He's an absolute monster this year.
So Phil Kraus has 2 poles in a row. Can he make it 3? 21.6 the benchmark. And I tell you what, he has matched Joshua Chin. Identical lap times, and I say identical because our timing tower has not put plus 001 like it would if they were down to the 1,000th. They have put identical lap times onto the board.
Amazing job by Phil there. Shades of F1 1997 at Jerez, Villeneuve and Schumacher. Just need one more to pop up there with another 6.18.
So the thing that confuses me is why Kraus has scored first despite putting the lap in second. Now I wonder if maybe even what is reported to our timing tower, timing software rather, which is more accurate than what we see on our timing software, if there is a discrepancy in lap time, it does not get much tighter than that. We watch as Tony Schowen will roar to the line. 6/10 off on lap number 1. Lap 2 good enough to jump him up into 7th. One of the remaining contenders yet to put in any lap time is Robert Mileczka. He's building up on lap number 1. It's a driver that typically struggles in qualifying that's running around for his second lap. Kinsella works through turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's a private label team hype. Oh!
Well, that's it done for Kinsella. Knocks down the wall on the exit of turn 4. Now we see if maybe the other power slide driver of Robert Mileczka can do better. As like you're about to say, Adam, it is a 1, 2, and 3 for the private label team hype.
Power slider painting the wall while private label team hype's owning the top 3 positions. So gonna have to have the power slide group here do a little bit of work to try to really split up this private label team hype group. They're just so strong, leading the team's championship. It'll be a long race for them.
It's another car in the wall. This time it's Matt Taylor. Now will that lap count after the moment? No, it will not. So he will stay down in 21st. That is a very difficult spot to start. And I tell you what, Joshua Chin says they tied on both their laps. Incredible stuff at the front, and we're in for a treat as we head to the Milwaukee Mile. Yes, it's a slightly smaller field than we expected, but that does not mean you cannot have a race. You just need 2 to tango. It's time to go racing, though, with just 4 rounds left in the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. Let's run trackside here at the Magic Mile to run you down through your ButtKicker starting grid. And it is a 3rd pole in a row for Philip Kraus with a 21.618. My word, the margin is not defined between him and his teammate Joshua Chin, who will line up on his outside and is a private label team hype 1, 2, and 3 with the yellow number 88 of Jason Brophy starting inside of Matthias Kraus, who continues a great run of form as he starts on the outside of row 2. The best of the power slide drivers, Mileczka in 5th with Marquez for company, while Alexander Van der Stant rolls from 7th in the 96. Brian Beard on the outside of row 4. It'll be Tony Schowen in the 31 car for power slide. Ignition Mike Rigney completes the top 10 with John Bader for 11, then qualifying. Not the worst spot for him to start in, but he will be thrown straight into the thick of the action. Caleb Bensi to his right-hand side. Stefan Larkamp and Ron Hacker row 7, with 15th seeing Bradley Sexton. Mitchell Riggs in the Ascari Autosport 09 in 16th spot. Kinsella's qualifying struggles continue. He's got plenty of work to do in the race. Adriano Pinheiro will start alongside two strong contenders here on short track racing, with Kite Bombers back in Tyler Graf bookending the top 20. Row 11 sees Matt Taylor unable to complete the second lap after knocking down the wall. You'll see Adam Frazier with him, the final cars, with lap times on the board. Lionel Calisto and Luis Gonzalez Nunez may be thinking discretion the better part of valor, while Brian Carey and Alex Guyon have end of line penalties. They would have been starting from the back anyway. It is just 26 cars, tied as the second smallest field that we've seen here in season history. We had 26 back in 2021 as well. Well, the field will begin to roll for their formation laps, and of course crucial to get temperature into your tires. We'll run you down through your featured onboard cameras though as we work around the Magic Mile, starting with Brian Beard, who carries your Next Level Racing onboard camera. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. Mike Rigney sees ButtKicker riding with him. Sim racing is better with ButtKicker. Visit thebutkicker.com. And the joys of sim racing onboard cameras through the entirety of the field. Quick expectations though, Adam, as we get ready to go racing.
Definitely looking at those top three running away. Track position is so important here. Dirty air is going to cause a lot of problems, so look for the top three to really run away. Take care of some tires, save some fuel, try to extend things. The track position race is going to be super important, and we'll have to see if anyone can mount a charge here.
It is a tie for the pole position, but it is Philip Kraus that will lead us to the green in what has been a crazy season for him. It is his 12th pole position in this series, but the private label team hype roars at the front of the field to get us racing for the Next Level Racing Milwaukee 200 presented by ButtKicker. Joshua Chin immediately loses out to Jason Brophy, but they fight side by side on the exit of turn 2, single file for the rest of the top 10.
Yeah, clean start there by everyone. Just gotta hope everyone settles in, keeps ahead of their tools a little bit, realizes it's a long race. Gotta survive here.
Looks like Alexander Van der Sant, the first car on offense, as he'll work to the inside of the New Yorker, Andrew Marquez. Now Power Slide drivers being able to work together, and Van der Sant immediately has decided that he wants to go, and he wants to go now. You really cannot afford to lose too much track position at this track already. We'll have 2 laps in the books with lap times around 25 seconds at this first lap. We dip that down to 22.5 on the second lap. They tick on by, and they tick on by fast. Joshua Chin to the inside will grab second back from Brophy.
Yeah, great job by these private label team hype guys. Like I said, just pulling away, trying to maintain a gap. Matthias looking for probably a way by here, but I think he's probably pretty content here sitting P4. Save some fuel, just bring those tires up nice and easy, because the tires are still going to be building temperature here probably for the first 7 or 8 laps before we get to a sweet spot where they level off and the balance gets to more or less what it's going to be for the rest of the run.
So up and down through the field, not too many movers. +3 for Matt Taylor, who's up into 18th spot, but other than that, it's +1, -1, up and down here and there. Pinheiro, surprisingly, maybe the biggest loser. He's -4, maybe just being a little bit tentative at this point through the race. Of course, with a fixed setup competition, very different to how you'd race it in open setups, just because of the fact that the setup itself is built differently for how you use the in-car tools, and that's not spoken about enough, Adam, the way that the top teams dial in-car adjustments to their setups.
No, for sure. I definitely bet on Adriano really taking it easy here in the first stint, really trying to extend it, being in map 5, using the fuel maps that the car has, which is another tool that drivers have in the toolbox that they can change the way the car handles. And absolutely, the weight tracker, front and rear anti-roll bars are all things that drivers have at their disposal to try to change the handling balance of the car, which you can use in traffic, in clean air, to try to manage the tires and manage the car balance. It'll be interesting to see how some of these drivers handle that, and whether or not they step over the line, get a little bit loose, a little bit tight, and if they need to stop early and do something different.
maybe not take it 3 wide on lap number 8. That is definitely not the wisest idea. 200 laps will last a while. Matt Taylor continues to try and work the inside groove as they roll 2 wide, 2 rows deep down the back straightaway. Taylor now up into 16th as Tyler Graf tries to follow him through on Ron Hacker. A little bit of a moment there as behind them Lionel Callisto trying to fight past Kite Bombers back. Different lines. At least for the time being, it's the inside groove that dominates. At the front of the field, though, it is clean sailing for Phil Kraus, who is 9/10 clear of his teammate Joshua Chin. And really, there are big gaps that have grown between all 3 of the private label team hype cars, maybe just trying to manage this phase of the race.
Yeah, I'd put my monies pretty strongly on that for sure. The private label team hype guys have managed this whole championship so far, so I wouldn't expect anything different from this race. And yeah, one of the things, going 3 wide or fighting really hard, you're so incentivized to try to maximize passing opportunities given that everyone's so close to you. So definitely you have to manage that desire and not try to bite too hard at that carrot, seeing that it's so close in front of you. Definitely a mental game at this track as well, being so close to other cars and not trying to use up all your resources in your tires or fuel, trying to get around people.
Adriano Pinheiro trying to stop the backwards momentum as he'll now fight with Lionel Callisto. This outside of the top 20. In front of them, you got Ron Hacker, Adam Frazier's behind and popping out to take advantage, potentially Ron Hacker, but Pinheiro will grab 21st for the time being. These drivers now already almost half a lap adrift from your race leaders. As Ron Hacker, I'm not sure what's happened to him, but he's rolling to pit lane.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he might have gotten in the wall just a little bit, bumped out a little bit of toe, and just it's so hard to drive the car, especially at these high speeds when your wheel's a little off center. So it might just make more sense, like Hacker did there, to just box and try to get the damage repaired before causing any more damage.
Matt Taylor still trying to charge his way forward now. Works on Bradley Sexton. So fuel window for this race. Let's talk about it quickly. 200 laps, 200 miles. The fuel window estimated to be just under 60 laps, and so that does mean that you've got to be a little bit mindful, because if, knock on wood, there is a caution and it's timed appropriately, it's not abnormal for Lionheart to go to fuel-saving mode and for things to become dramatic with strategy after that.
No, and you got to think it's probably playing in the drivers' minds a little bit with strategy that if you're going to have a race which historically has had 17 cautions, you pretty much have to stay out as long as you can and extend these stints as long as you can. If we were to go green, which is all things being equal unlikely, the first stint you sort of really need to box around lap 54 to 57, but then that opens up your window for stop 2 and stop 3 to a much larger gap. So you're able to really plan out your stint a little bit more and have more flexibility with where you stop in order to overtake someone or overcut someone or take advantage of that yellow. So extending this first stint as long as you can really opens up the windows in stint 2 and 3, and we'll have to see if we get other drivers like Adriano or even Phil and Josh who really want to try to insulate themselves against the threat of that yellow and getting trapped a lap down or more.
Well, and to your point about, the potential for yellows, let's not forget that, there was much expectation around the season over at Homestead that we were going to suffer from a deluge of cautions. We ended up going caution-free, I think for the first time in series history even, at that specific track. So never say never. And again, smaller field than some of what we've seen over the course of this 2022 campaign. I'd not be totally shocked if we go caution-free. Although, having said that, pit lane entry and exit, we have Joshua Chin and Jason Brophy in this field, so there's no expectation that we will get through safely those phases of the race.
I was just going to say, not any coincidence that we all of a sudden change camera shots to Brophy and Chin there, who still are fantastic drivers in their own right, but just got to tidy up a couple of those mental mistakes and make sure that they're able to enter pit lane and exit pit lane as safely as possible.
And to be fair to us, did it happen last week at Barber to the both of them?
Chin's, yes. I believe Brophy's was, I think we called it an intentional pit lane entry that wasn't. And Chin's was on pit exit, if I recall.
Yes, though, so during the pit phase, though, so bygones be bygones.
Yes.
They illustrated our point perfectly last week, so we will at least continue going with that. Chin has brought the gap down, though, to 7/10 of the second, all the while Brophy sliding backwards further and further. Malechka and Van der Zandt have started to close, and I just wonder what those private label team hype drivers were able to figure out in terms of in-car tools for qualifying that saw them so comfortably at the very front of the field. Beta for now defends from Kinsella, and while they fight, it's allowing Bensley to break away with Tony Schowen up the road.
Yeah, despite the fact that John's sitting here in traffic, sort of middle of the pack, this is a fantastic experience for him. Not the most experienced oval driver in the field, but definitely racing up against some of these really, really skilled drivers on a fixed setup series is going to be helping him massively for his confidence, both in the racecraft portion of the oval discipline, but also in managing the car, feeling what the car's doing, and getting ahead of where you need to be as far as your tools. So fantastic job here by John managing P12, racing against some really, really tough competitors like Andrew.
Yeah, no, when you've got a veteran like Kinsella behind you, it shows that Betafer is picking this up pretty quickly. Kinsella is making his 130th Lionheart IndyCar career start, and while you think, yes, that's a lot, it's actually not the most. 159 is the most in series history. Tony Schowen is getting close to that one. In 5 races after this, so at the start of 2023, he will hit 160 if he continues. That's a lot of races in this Lionheart IndyCar series. Matthias Kraus, great back after the campaign. Andrew Marquez, great back after the campaign, but he's someone that we've seen compete on short tracks at top levels, on open setup competitions as well. So this future of the Lionheart IndyCar series is promising. I mean, Adam, I got to ask, it's delightful to have you up here in the commentators booth, but did you ever think about going down there on the track and racing as well?
Not gonna lie, it has crossed my mind a few times. The competition has scared me a little bit, not gonna lie. But the way that Lionheart runs their series, regardless of whether someone like myself is competing in it, is still top class. There's no coincidence that there are drivers like Phil Kraus and Adam Blocker and Josh Chin running in the series. Last week I was tempted. I even offered to run it for some entertainment purposes to give Phil a little bit of a run for his money, since I consider myself kind of a prolific barber driver. It's one of my favorite courses on the circuit, but thought that I could be more use up here with you, so happy to be up here in the booth regardless.
Yeah, no, I definitely needed some company for that one last week. It turned out it was a good call because of just how crazy and chaotic that one was. Van der Zandt seems to be the best at being able to stay close inside of this top 15, at least for the time being, and Van der Zandt's always tricky when it comes to fuel mileage, but when you're already 5 and a bit seconds down from the leader with 30 laps done, you start to wonder what's going on. I'm also wondering what's happening to Jason Brophy now. Is this a temporary connection issue, or is Jason Brophy going to be robbed of, I think, what likely would have been a almost guaranteed podium spot?
I think this might be a critical technical issue there with Brophy. His internet quality is falling off a cliff, so it'd be really unfortunate if he disconnected here. But we'll have to keep our fingers crossed that somehow the internet gods smile on him. Oh, looks like he might be coming back a little bit here.
I was actually just about to say I'd never seen... okay. Well, and this is the unfortunate thing about this. I was about to say that I'd never seen a car disappear for so long and then reappear safely. However, safe is a relative term here, because Jason Brophy is scored as a lap down.
Just one of those things in the internet world, racing online from all over the world, different places. The iRacing gods have saved his car, but not saved his position on the scoring pylon. As you said, scored a lap down here, the first car lap down. Maybe this is an opportunity for him to ask for some team tactics and see if Phil can't give him his lap back. Oh, since he's so close.
See, now that actually is not the worst call in the world. Let's see.
Especially since Phil, I mean, we're only 34 laps into this race, in this stint, but Phil's already almost little
lap
over 3
traffic.
seconds behind lap traffic, and the balance of the car in clean air versus behind lap traffic is completely different. So it's going to be a little tricky here as Phil comes up on this lap traffic to see if he's able to keep the balance of the car in a position where he's able to keep moving forward. Because Josh Chin, who's behind him by a second, has been driving in his dirty air the whole time, so he's well versed on what he needs to do with the tools in the car to keep the car where it needs to be in order to stay close.
Absolutely. And I think this is where, if you're Chin, the ability to have stayed within 8/10 is going to be vital. Bradley Sexton, Mitchell Riggs will fight side by side as the Ascari Autosport driver trying to hold on to 16th position. Crucial spots and points because, of course, only 2 of the Ascari Autosport machines left for 2022 after Barrett Rolfe withdrew from the series earlier in this campaign. Matt Taylor in front of Stefan Larkamp. Matt Taylor, the biggest mover by far. He is +8 into 13th. And I generally get the sense that even without a caution, don't discount the MadWorks Motorsports car from making an appearance in the top 8 by the end of the day.
No, it'll be interesting to see what kind of progress Sexton can make to see if they can get up towards, like you said, the top 8 or even a little further in the top 5, given the position that he's got right now. We'll just have to see again how things play out. Tire strategy and fuel strategy will be critical here to take advantage of other people's mistakes and some clean air, because that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to, other than the tires, obviously, it's going to lead to overcutting or undercutting some people.
To be fair, you just saw the shot all the way down the straight of how closely the cars are basically being able to follow right now. And we'll continue to see it because 20 seconds, a lap's gone by and Phil Krause has already gone. But for the most part, the drivers are able to stay a lot closer, and there is fighting up and down through the field. And we've seen plenty of side-by-side.
For sure, the setup today seems to be pretty good as we see one lap car boxing in front of Phil. Good for Phil.
It's Luis Gonzalez Nunez very, very early. Remember, fuel window around 60 laps, and that's before you start to think about the fuel saving that drivers will do. And especially at a track like this, Adam, those fuel maps that started to be a viable option about, 12 months, 18 months ago will really start to play into factor, not just to save fuel, but maybe to save some of your tires as well.
Absolutely, running with a little leaner fuel map does save tires, specifically the rears, but at a track like this, the right front's just absolutely taking a pounding. So running in that leaner fuel map, inducing a little less rotation from the rear is really important to help save tires. But as you said, extending that stint, trying to get the jump on your competitors who might have to box a little bit early because they've been fighting a little too hard or running a little too rich. That's how you end up making positions on a track that's sort of aero limited or grip limited or track position limited, where it's so difficult to initiate and induce passes either by mistake or car balance, because everyone's running on that same setup.
It's likely also to be one of the longer races of the year just by nature of the track. We're likely to go closer to an hour and a quarter, maybe even an hour and 25 minutes. And that's before we think about any cautions. So before we even reach the quarter mark of this race, it's definitely one of those ones where mental focus will be paramount to those up and down through the field. For your leaders, though, fortunately, are still yet to really dive into the heart of the traffic. It will be Adam Fraser in the 12 that is next up in line, but then they find another 2 seconds of separation before they'll get to Alex Guillon and the rest of the pack. So I would start to think that, Adam, we're not going to get traffic until we're done with the pit stop cycle, and from there, knock on wood, assuming we go green, it will be a constant reality for everyone.
Yeah, I guess that'll be when the fun starts in stint 2, where you're having to manage the lap traffic, and the lap traffic is having to manage being around the lead lap cars, and it's always tough trying to figure out what lap cars are doing, or if you're a lap car trying to allow and facilitate a pass by the lead lap cars. So it'll be really, really critical here how these cars, both lap cars and lapping cars, are going to manage the second stint, and whether or not someone like a Matthias Kraus boxes early?
Well, it's not Kraus that's going to box early. Instead, it's someone that maybe we
Van de Sant.
Yeah, it's someone that we should not be totally shocked is going to throw something at the wall, and he'll see if it sticks. Van de Sant finds his mark. That was about as tidy a pit road execution as you can get so far, but now he'll drop with a full tank of fuel and 4 fresh Firestone tires. Nice and tidy. Van de Sant always one of the best at dropping and rolling, not just smoothly but quickly as well, and the tricky bumpy pit exit. Van de Sant navigates it with ease and will emerge, yes, 1 lap down, but crucially with some clean air up the road.
Yeah, fantastic pit stop sequence there by Van de Sant. He was able to get in and out without any issue. No wheel spin, no oversteer. Pretty clean there on his outlap here too. And like you said, no traffic, no real traffic in front of him. He's able to bring these tires up at his own leisure. Probably pushing pretty hard here to try to make advantage of those fresh tires, which he's going to feel like absolute Superman here for the first 10 laps. But he's got to really think about how he's going to manage these, because now that he's boxed this early, he's going to have to pretty much box early for the next 2 stops and hope that a yellow doesn't come out here anytime soon and trap him a lap down.
Yes, he has, as NBC would like to put it, put himself in the danger zone. 52 laps for your race leader as Phil Kraus gets closer and closer to the lap traffic, but I would, without a shadow of a doubt, expect him to come down before he hits the traffic. I'm just trying to now work backwards in this race. So what Van de Sant is just trying to do is say, okay, I'll come in early, get the undercut now, gain the track position, and even though, yes, I will pit earlier through the final cycle, assuming we go green from here to the end of this race, hopefully net it will pay off. He'll just be hoping he doesn't have to defend with tires that have very much gone past their expiration date coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk, but I mean, at this point, he's really only racing his teammate, Robert Milwaukee. So you got to try something different if you want to beat someone else, especially.
I just wonder, sorry to cut you off, he's 0.3 quicker a lap than Kraus and Chin right now. I just wonder if he'll eat into the lead of those guys, because he's 5 laps into his run. Hypothetically, he's already closed 1.5 seconds to Joshua Chin, which leaves him well and truly within striking distance by the time we get to the pit window.
He'll experience a little bit of fall off here, especially once he gets closer to some lap traffic, but definitely he'll be looking at this gap that he's closing in, this corrected gap, and see this as a win. But then Josh and Phil are also going to be able to put on a set of new tires, and they're going to feel like Superman for 10 or so laps. So it's that elastic push and pull of who takes advantage of the resources when that makes the pit strategy interesting, but also difficult and fun.
Elastic push and pull, I like that one, and I'm going to totally steal it, that's for sure. Still Kraus and Chin electing not to box. They're consistently doing 22.3s. Van de Sant has slowed to 22.2s. The last few times around, at the very least, Van de Sant will indeed get track position over not just Mileczka, but Kraus, Matthias Kraus, that is, as well. Takers to pit lane. Tony Schowen followed in by Caleb Bensi, John Badefer, and then Stefan Larkamp as well. So well and truly diving into the early parts of the pit stop window. These are drivers expecting to try and make something happen by boxing slightly early.
Yeah, this is sort of what we expected if you're sort of mid-pack or even just sort of infringing on the top 10. You're going to want to try something different, because if you do the same thing that your opponent does, you're likely doomed to remain in the exact same spot. So fantastic. Look at this pit exit here with 3 cars battling. This is exactly where you want to be, trying to maximize these tires. Whoa!
Tony Schowen realized that the low line's not where he wanted to be, and John Badefer might gap. Caleb Bensi as well on the run down into turn number 1. My word, what a run-through pit exit that was. And whoa, we got a spinner. Caleb Bensi through the pit stop cycle, smacks the wall and brings out the caution. We only have 8 laps, 8 drivers, not scored on the lead lap. Drivers were mid-pit cycle. This changes everything.
Absolutely everything. Not what you wanted to see if you were a car that just boxed. So tough. You want to try to do something different, but at a track where you end up going a lap down if you box early, just so tough. such a tough call.
Well, we will see plenty of drivers down on pit lane right now. Jason Brophy will take advantage here. Cycle back to the lead lap, and we'll see if you'll get the opportunity to maybe still dive down on towards pit lane. Let's spool up the replay. Let's see what happened to Caleb Bensi. Remember, cold tires, and they were fighting hard. Badefer left him room and just sends it deep and drives it rearwards into the wall, and after that, there was not much she was going to do.
Yeah, I suspect that's probably a combination of cold tires and a little bit of extra steering angle. Turn 1 is so difficult, especially when you're coming at a wider angle when you've got a car to your inside. You end up having to add a lot of extra wheel in order to get the car rotated, and I think he just lost the rear and backed himself into the wall. Just so tough on cold tires. You almost wonder if it might have been smarter just to almost concede that position to John and live to fight another day, but I'm sure only he'll have thoughts about that.
I just wonder as well as maybe he had yet to reset his tools effectively and trying to reground himself with where they wanted to be early in the run, right on board with Tony Schau, and this will give us a great view of that and the aftermath as well. It's a big old lick into the wall, and that is probably a Dallara IR18 that it will see many better days. Fortunately, we will see plenty of drivers getting their laps back. Jason Brophy, unfortunately, will not be one of them, I do believe, because as he rolls to pit lane, he will go back one lap down. We should still have a full complement of 19 drivers on the lead lap once we finish this wave around process.
Yeah, Jason needed a box. He hadn't pit yet, so he would have run out of fuel otherwise because we were at the tail end of the green flag pit stop window. So again, unfortunate for anyone that was a lap down that hadn't boxed because they were scuppered. They needed a box anyways. And yeah, like you said, we're going to get some lap cars here at the tail end of the lead lap now that Phil is boxed, who are going to be able to get their lap back, but they'll be off sequence on fuel, so they'll need to box earlier in the next stint, and they'll also be behind on tires, so it'll be tough for them to really move their way through the field, but not impossible. And as we know, yellows breed yellows, so maybe there might be a little bit more.
You can't say that right now.
No?
Remember the 17. We don't talk
Fair
about
enough.
We don't talk about what breeds what. It hurts the worst, of course, for Alexander Van der Zandt because he's 14 laps into his run effectively. I have no doubt that he's going to be looking backwards rather than forwards. You know who gains the most here? It's those that had stayed out the longest. It includes Mike Rigney, Mitchell Riggs, Adriano Pinheiro, and Kite Bommersbach, who cycle up into the top 7. And now, with track position equal with the leaders on strategy, it does not get much luckier than that. The lights do look to be off on the iRacing pace car, so we're getting ready to go racing. One caution so far. It took more than a quarter of the race before our pace car driver Benny was required out on track. It will still be a private label, Team Hype 1 and 2. Matthias Kraus behind, and then Rigney and company that took advantage. Back underway for this next level racing, Milwaukee 200, presented by ButtKicker, and it's a great start at the front of the field for the private label duo who coordinate to start to stretch out the advantage at the front of the field. Already, though, it will be Van der Zandt feeling the pressure as Jason Brophy, slightly out of position, has caused chaos on the restart.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, just like the start of the first stint, whether or not people can really restrain themselves a little bit, given that they've got all these cars, and it's the best time to make up spots in track position. Everyone would have seen more or less where they sort of sat as far as gap to the leader after the first stint, so trying to make up spots here is that delicate balance between using your resources, managing your gaps to the cars around you, but also trying to take advantage of the situation and move forward.
And trying to work with lap traffic. Brian Carey said, no more, thank you, and got out of the way. Kite Bommersbach, Adriano Pinheiro, side by side on the exit of turn 2. The Brazilian almost up into the wall, but uses the momentum and the ramp off the corner to hold on to 6th for the time being. Already 9/10 separate second from third. The private label Team Kite cars at the front of the field, stretching their legs and extending their advantage at the front. They are very much playing it safe, though, inside of the top 10. It's outside where they fight. Badefer, Beard, Sexton, Graf, and Taylor, plenty fighting out of turn 2.
Yeah, these guys down here in the mid-pack again, just trying to grab as much as they can here. It's a fire sale, so try to grab as much track position as you can before the tires really equalize and everyone ends up sort of sitting in their own bubble. Really great job here by John, again, working his way up through the field a little bit. If I'm the Private Label Team Hype guys, though, I'm definitely a little bit frightened by that Adriano Pinheiro car. He's quite skilled in these cars, as we mentioned, had the superior strategy by running long, and no doubt they're going to try to repeat the same thing that got them a little bit of an advantage in the first stint by running long again to insulate themselves against the possibility of a yellow.
Matt Taylor has lost ground through the cycle, not as bad maybe as Van der Sant, but he rides 15th. We jump on board with Tyler Graf, and it's a familiar situation. Taylor working on Sexton, Graf trying to take advantage. In front of them as well, ramping out of turn 4. Marquez and Kinsella with a drag race into turn 1.
Big throw there into one by Marquez, and Kinsella holds it around the outside. He should have a little bit of a run here, but he's going to be on the outside for 3. Let's see if Marquez holds tight. Kinsella should have the run here out of 4. Oh, still side by side, a whole lap there.
And they'll continue to fight. Kinsella just a hair in front, but it will be the send into 1 that might be able to clear him. He'll pinch and will get it done through the apex. Marquez relinquishes. Beard holds on in front of Betafur because it's more lap traffic to work past. I tell you what, you can make the outside line work. It takes confidence. It takes the understanding of what the car is going to do as well. Kinsella had both of those in that situation. Mitchell Riggs, 5th for the time being, sees some separation behind to Adriano Pinheiro. Bombers back Van der Sant, and then the best of the power slide cars. It's fair to say the caution really has not worked out in the favor of these drivers.
No, it obviously didn't. The yellow helps and hurts, kind of like multi-class traffic. But like we were saying before, you got to do something a little bit different if you want to try to maximize and take advantage of your opponent, because if you do the same thing that they do, you're likely to follow in their footsteps, especially if you're behind them. And yeah, that move by Andrew was fantastic. Cojones and commitment is what some might say. So great job there by Andrew to hanging around the outside against Marquez there. We'll have to see if the outside line ends up becoming a little bit more of a passing opportunity where drivers really use the outside to try to make a pass where they're clearly from behind as opposed to where they're fighting side by side.
So I invoked the spirit of the 17 at the very start of this broadcast, and so far, so good. Just 1 caution with 74 laps in the books. Sam Ryman has calculated that if we get to about a lap 120 without another caution, it's mathematically impossible for us to get 17 cautions again, although I very much do not want to think about what the next 2.5 hours of our life would be like if we did have to go that long.
Yeah, the 1 caution every 100 laps is a good ratio that I can get behind, so hopefully we're able to keep that ratio or a little bit better. Definitely 17 would be a little bit of a long evening, but with these drivers, I think they've shown quite a bit of restraint where they needed to and have left gaps where they needed to, so looks like we're probably on for a quick evening.
Alexander Van der Sant working on the back of Kite Bombers back in that Ascari Autosport. Number 37, of course, Van der Sant with the oldest of the tires through the field. 29 laps, yes, a caution to interject itself into the mix, but you can see just how difficult it is even for someone who's run up the front versus someone who's taken advantage of the strategy call. Van der Sant still trying to send it, though, into turn 1.
Yeah, he's just not going to have the run here on Callisto, or sorry, Bomber's back. He's going to have to figure out a way to set this pass up a little bit, which is something you really can do at a track like Milwaukee, where you've got a little bit of braking. You got to fake your opponent out a little bit, put them in a little bit of a compromising spot, make them work their materials a little bit harder than you, try to take advantage of a mistake. Oh,
close. This is
very
close. Yeah, people are asking me why I'm risking it, why I'm invoking a potential commentator's curse here. Because if we do have 17 cautions, the drivers are going to know about it when they watch this broadcast back. I will not restrain myself if that happens. I am just leaving it at that. They're also knocking on the wood next to us. Van der Sant up into 7th in front of Bombers back now. He has to wait for Malechka to try and follow, but the 91 still has to dispose of Jason Brophy as well, so 2 cars splits the teammates that are trying to work together. On to lap 81, already 20 laps into the run for the likes of Phil Kraus. Halfway through the run if you're Alexander Van der Sande.
Yeah, that play by Bombersback was really smart there. He knew Alexander was just going to keep fighting him, trying to get around him, so better off just accept that you're more likely to get involved in a collision and just save time. This racing is all about the amount of time that you lose or gain by fighting other cars, so fall back in line, try to minimize your time loss, and you'll end up with a pretty decent spot there at the end.
If anyone's wondering why we're not watching your race leaders, because it's boring out front and it's much more exciting out the back right now, so we will focus on where there is actual racing. And when Phil Kraus hits traffic, trust me, you will know about it, because the gap will close to Joshua Chin and it will get exciting at the front. You can see on the track map that as Kraus and Chin work to the start-finish line to work to lap 84, they still have just about half a lap to catch to the back of Alex Guyon. Of course, the timing of the caution basically has meant that Phil Kraus never has had to deal with dirty air at any point through this race.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a catch-22 for sponsors when you want to have time on the broadcast, but you want to have a quiet race if you're up front leading and you just want the car in victory lane. So I'm sure Phil's probably happy with not being shown on the broadcast if it means he wins the race. And like you said, this battle here towards the middle of the field, this is where the excitement is, because the gaps between the cars are so close and the drivers are having to manage the car and the race so much. So definitely going to be interesting to see how long it takes for these drivers here in the middle of the pack to work their way up if they can, and how they manage their resources here moving forward.
It's a track where, like we said during our ButtKicker pre-race show, starting inside of the front three spots tends to be lucky. Only once in Season 4 did the winner start outside of those opening spots. It was Joe Branch back in Season 4 who started from 7th every single year. Other than that year, the driver that has led the most laps has gone on to win the race as well. Adam Blocker, your all-time laps leader here with 227. 184 of those came back in 2021. This race is elongated in length as well. 120 laps in Season 1, then extended to 125 when it was returned to the calendar back in Season 3. Ran a couple of races of 150 laps before now, for the fourth time, we return to the Magic Mile for a 200-lap affair. And I do like that we make it more of an endurance race, Adam. You and I enjoy our endurance racing, but we're talking 6, 12, 24 hours. It's still draining, though, when you're around a track like this with such a small margin for about 80, 85 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'd be all that much fun running 6 hours around here in an IndyCar. But
Team race.
Well, hey, there's always a plan we can pitch to Roger Penske then.
There we go.
But yeah, these sorts of races are just so mentally taxing, even though that we don't in the sim world have to deal with a lot of what the real life drivers have to do with G-forces and fluid loss and
Dirty air
and sweat and dirt and grime and all the cool things, cool in quotes, that real life drivers have to deal with. But still, it's so mentally draining to be on the limit, trying to feel the car and absorb as much input as you can from the equipment that you're on. This is one of those tracks too where I'd say having a little bit better equipment like a direct drive wheel,
yes,
really advantageous, because you're able to feel what the car's doing and react just that much quicker to correct a mistake or an imbalance that the car has, either oversteer or understeer. So what you might find is that drivers that have that little bit better of equipment might just do a little bit better towards the end of the run when they're able to feel what the tire's doing a little bit more.
Of course, as we get to the end of the year, we start to wonder what 2023 will have in store for the drivers in terms of schedule and whatnot. In terms of this year, there's not really much that I think has been added that would necessitate a trip for the Lionheart IndyCar Series. I guess you could make the argument that maybe we could try out Fuji, Adam, but I mean, yeah, other than that, Magny-Cours is on the, soon list for iRacing. There's really not much new that we can really throw at the drivers.
No, the drivers are pretty well versed in the Lionheart schedule based on how frequently we have to run it, either in official sessions or in league sessions. Magny-Cours would be an interesting French trip. Oh, as we see,
Cut the curb.
John cut the curb there a little bit. But I think the biggest curveball that might get thrown at drivers across the service, let alone over the Lionheart IndyCar Series, would be if rain, #soon. That would really spice up some of these races and really throw another curveball at how strategy is determined. And maybe there are some interesting strategies that play out from maybe some intermediate tires to start. Not that the
Badefer maybe a little bit over-optimistic there on Taylor, moves him out of the groove, and the black and gold will back out of it potentially into turn 3. There is looking for a gap, and then there is going for a gap, and Jason Brophy is the perfect pick. I know, John Badefer will grab 13th spot. What a sequence that was, but it all started with the optimistic look to the inside by Badefer.
A little bit of racecraft there by John, showing nose into 1. It ended up paying off at the exit of 4 when Brophy just load up. I'm not sure if he's an issue because he's quite slow, or if he's just trying to get out of the way of the lead lap cars.
Just trying to be conservative and not be too much of a
maybe
of a factor.
maybe there's a strategy play in here. Maybe trying to one stop from here.
Maybe that would be asking for a lot. Let's take a look at this replay on board with Badefer, because it's not even, I think, as much showing the nose as Taylor just slows a lot more than normal and then tries to cut back, and Badefer was already there. And from this point forward, it was basically set up for the Alpine Stars geodesic racing car to use Brophy in the perfect possible way. Was already compromised from Brian Beard going past, and there went Badefer sailing on through.
I'm sure Brophy doesn't like to use that way, but I'm sure John's quite happy to use Brophy as a means to an end, which ends up being a spot a little bit further up the track.
To go back to rain, though, for a second, let's not think about it on ovals. I think we can agree on that.
No, it definitely wouldn't affect these sorts of races where you need as much grip as you can.
Because we had the rain delay, right? Rain delay in quotes for last year's iRacing Daytona 24. Those that know. But I don't need that in my Lionheart life. I enjoy these races too much to sit around and wait for them. When it comes to road courses, though, I think it's interesting. Last year we added, of course, the element of the compounds, right? Primary and alternates for the first time in iRacing IndyCar history. Now, if we add rain, we talk about how the compounds play out there as well, and how it changes the situation. If the race starts dry, you have to use both compounds, but midway through the race, it starts raining, so suddenly that's not a regulation, a requirement that you have to fulfill anymore. There's so many permutations to think about, and you will really start to wonder where your weather forecasters are, because you will need all the help you can get.
Absolutely. It sounds like iRacing's rain model is going to be pretty in-depth as well, where we've got the ability to look at rain forecasts and weather radar on the spot. But it'll be just another one of those things that the driver has to manage in the cockpit, unless they've got the advantage of having a spotter or an engineer who's working side by side with them over comms. But then that's a lot of pressure on the engineer to make the call. Typically what you find is drivers are pretty selfish, so want to make the call themselves. But you got to have another level of mental bandwidth in order to really have the capacity to look at all the different variables and facets of a race and make a call about tires or pit strategy. So it'll be interesting how drivers respond to that.
Matt Taylor back past John Badefer, so they're not done just for the time being. Andrew Kinsella has gone and passed Kite Bombers back, so now on the back of his Powerslide teammate, Robert Milechka. Although one represents Powerslide Adrenaline, the other Powerslide Ignition. Here comes Badefer again to the inside, and again it's turn 3 where just seems to be more able to get up and alongside, but once again experience on the part of Matt Taylor defends the outside line. Halfway through this race, we've got 95 laps still left to play, about 30 minutes left to go, and while Josh Chin for that first stint of the race was able to hold on tight, it's been a lot different this time by since the caution, with Phil Krause having run away at the front of the field. And with the pit window now opening, it's Alexander Van der Zandt who rolls to pit lane.
Yeah, Alex has had a strategy baked pitting early there, and then also boxing or getting screwed by that yellow flag. So he's got the advantage or disadvantage, depending if you want to look at it glass half full or half empty, of having his strategy completely known him. He's got to push as hard as he can, max push here. So where other drivers are thinking about, oh, do I save a little bit? Do I try to save tires or fuel? Or when do I box? Alex Van Asant's just got to push as hard as he can, qualifying laps as much as he can, and overtake as many cars as he can in order to work his way up back towards the front and in a decent finishing position.
Another couple of cars that have been locked side by side for over a lap now as Bommersbach and Marquez squabble on the final couple of spots inside the top 10. Kinsella has already built up a 1.4 second advantage, so as much fun as it is to watch them fight, surely they recognize how much time they're bleeding as well relative to those that maybe they would like to continue tussling with. Bit of a train forming behind. Beard, Taylor, Beta for all involved. Ralph Kalisto, Larkamp not too far behind either. About 10 laps before the pit window will open for the drivers inside of the top 6, but give it 5 laps or so, Taylor will owe us a pit stop, Beard will owe us a pit stop, and pit road will become increasingly busy.
Yeah, both Marquez and Bommersbach here, understanding, of course, that they're, as you said, bleeding time and have to stop the hemorrhaging, but are looking at each other saying, you're the one that should concede. Another one of those selfish driver motifs that we see all the time, as it looks like Marquez might have the job done here, just off of 2 entering 3. So finally, hopefully, they might actually be able to form a little bit more of a train here and make their way closer towards the front, further away from the battle pack that we have behind. But you can see just how much time they've lost to the cars behind.
And they'll lose more time now because Taylor will look to get past Bommersbach in the Ascari Autosport 37. I think just a terrible run through turns 1 and 2 for him. We'll see him slide backwards. Betafer tries to take advantage as Taylor will come to pit lane. They were 3 wide for a moment. Betafer will try and slide his way forward and should get it done. But that's where we have the advantage of a driver-wide radio system where you can communicate on pit lane. Malechka and Taylor roll for the penultimate time to make a trip to the pit box.
Yeah, definitely important stint here. Sort of the setup for the end of the race. Still really important here to maximize your pit entry and exit. Don't have any wheel spin. Don't get loose at all. Try to come out in some clean air. Run some good laps here on these new tires. Feel like Superman for a little bit, and then hopefully finish in a decent spot.
So if you're Superman on fresh tires, therefore by logic, as your fuel tank empties, it's just adding kryptonite into there.
That's a great analogy there.
I love it.
Oh,
yeah, Malechka, of course, on fresh tires, but slow, still struggling, and Beard will try and see if what happens with Bommersbach, but with the fresh rubber, surely Malechka can hold on to this one. Bommersbach will be forced to continue fighting, and of course Malechka wants to hold position, but he's got to be careful to not interfere with those around.
Yeah, this is going to be absolutely painful for Malechka. He really wants to be flying away into the sunset with these new tires, but running side by side just sucks a little bit of the new tire energy out of you. You have to use it a little bit harder in order to run a little bit more aggressive a line outside or inside to get the spot, the track position, but finally looks like he's got the job done here. Oh, as Bommersbach gets really tight there, middle of 1 and 2. Causes him to wash up almost towards the wall, has to gather it up.
Couple more cars have rolled to pit lane. Tony Sharon, Larkamp, Kalisto, just this most recent time around. Marquez and Beta for notable names this time by. Still Beard and Graf, who will fight side by side as we wait for Philip Kraus ticking over to lap 58 to roll us down to pit lane and close off this cycle of pit stops. 3 seconds the margin to Joshua Chin, and full kudos goes to Matthias Kraus, who seems to just be getting better and better this year. Only 1.5 seconds back from Joshua Chin.
Yeah, Matthias is a fantastic competitor. Run against him many times in the IndyCar iRacing series. Tons of experience in the IndyCar now too, although it's fantastic to see him running at this time of night or morning in Germany. Just goes to show you the diversity of the Lionheart series and also of the IndyCar in general.
And again, with so many drivers having made a cycle of pit stops in the danger zone. Kraus Rigney will put themselves in the danger zone as well, along with Mitchell Riggs. Will we see Bombers back dive to the lane as well? It's left just 4 yet to box so far. Phil Kraus continues to extend it, and he'll go 1 lap longer as he winds out of turn 4.
Yeah, traffic here's tough because you've got cars that are on new tires and old tires wanting to maintain or lose position in a equitable and quick fashion. Sounds like Phil might be boxing this time.
Well, Josh Chin is already boxed, so here will come your race leader. It's been dominant so far for Philip Kraus. Will Adriano Pinheiro be able to extend further? He will. However, crucially, I don't think he'll get to lead a lap. And I don't think he'll get the bonus point as a result. We're past that point as well. We cannot hit 17 cautions. I think that's cause for celebration, Adam.
Absolutely. Very happy that my second race didn't feature 17 or more cautions. So I guess we'll have to call me a good luck charm here. And if we only have 1 caution for the whole race here, that'll be fantastic.
This is what I was wondering would happen, though, with Alexander Van der Sat and the significant undercut that he has compared to the rest of the field, because he has cycled to second net on track, and Adriano Pinheiro will complete the cycle of pit stops. 1 final trip for all cars to pit lane. It's Kraus from Van der Sat, from Chin, from Kraus, from Rigney, the top 5.
Yeah, fantastic undercut there by Alex Van der Sat. He's got the track position now as Pinheiro comes out behind Matthias Kraus, but with that little bit fresher tire, little bit less fuel to go in at the last stop. That'll save him some time. But this is the what do they call it? The investment stint, where how you play this stint out really sets you up for that final stint in the run to the checkered flag.
At the very least for Van der Sat, he's put himself in podium contention. I tend to struggle to see a way where he finishes in front of Joshua Chin without a caution coming out to change the game. However, I would not discount him from holding off at the very least Matthias Kraus. The question then becomes, like you say, with Pinheiro's maybe slightly shorter final stop and more flexibility when it comes to strategy, what happens with the Brazilian at the end of this one?
Yeah, the tire life towards the end of the stint will be interesting to see how well Alex can keep the car under him, and whether or not Matthias and Adriano on their newer, fresher tires can make any headway there towards the end of the stint. And then the difference in fuel amounts having to go into the car for the last stint is going to make it a very interesting last stint.
We're past the halfway marker here at the Magic Mile. Just 1 caution so far with 127 laps in the books for the Next Level Racing Milwaukee 200 presented by ButtKicker. You're watching RaceSpot TV and coverage of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. Don't go anywhere. The run to the checkered flag coming up next.
With the ButtKicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. ButtKicker, the future is feeling.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the final 4 races of your 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. We're live from the Magic Mile for a 200-mile dash, the Next Level Racing Milwaukee 200 presented by ButtKicker. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined once again in the RaceSpot TV commentary booth by the one and only Adam Crane, and we've got a fascinating race to the very end. Yes, it has been domination stations for Philip Kraus, but an interesting strategy call has seen Alexander Van der Sant rocket up to second in front of Joshua Chin, with Matthias Kraus and Adriano Pinheiro battling behind them for 5th. Adam, it's what you call the investment stint of the race. I'll just go ahead and say it's settled into a rhythm where right now you're just biding your time to dash to the checkered flag.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Alexander Van der Sant's investment is starting to pay off here, as he's made quite a few spots on this alternate strategy by boxing early, gaining time on Phil Kraus, who's caught in a little bit of traffic, where we might be in for a exciting finish here for P1 or even for the top 3.
And now traffic is not just constant, it is relentless. And like Adam points out, the gap is closed. It is not just down below 3 seconds, it's down below 2, 1.7 for a moment. It will give and take. It's the reality of traffic, whether it's on an oval or whether it's endurance multi-class traffic. You just got to be patient, you just got to bide your time, and the fortunate thing for Philip Kraus is he knows he's not got to fight too much, with one hand already on the championship.
No, he's got some time and points to burn. That's a fantastic easy mentally position to be in. Still sitting with a little under 2 seconds of a gap here to Alex Van der Sant. But man, these lap cars are not going to be making it easy for Phil, knowing just how important being on the lead lap is, especially with another sequence of pit stops coming up here shortly, and the potential for definitely not a yellow reasonably high.
Almost into the final quarter of the race, 10 laps to go, and we will reach those final 50 of this race. 1.3 now the gap. Kraus not forcing the issue. He doesn't have to. It's Van der Sant that's trying to dictate the tempo. He's also, to be fair, breaking away from Joshua Chin, so full credit to charge from the 96. Van der Sant now residing in Atlanta, Georgia. Really, it's slowed down up and down through the field. We've had plenty of ding-dong battles. The likes of Matt Taylor have been impressive, but no longer one of the hardest chargers, not just because of strategy calls, but even Lionel Callisto has come on strong in the mid-phase of this race. He's plus 11 to jump in front of the Madworks Motorsports number 8. Of course, your biggest loser of the day is the one and only Jason Brophy, and again, no fault of his own, no fault of anyone else's on the track. It was just a cruel and unfortunate technical issue. It's the reality of sim racing.
Yeah, Brophy luck strikes again, whether it's locking up on pit entries or having technical issues. Brophy's got some of the worst luck in sim racing, but he'll come back. He's a fighter and has a good sense of humor about it also. Will be interesting to see what he does moving forward through the rest of the series and into next year as well.
Yeah, I think at this point we are more looking forward to, if we had a close run to the championship, yes, maybe it would be a little bit different. We'd be maybe not looking so much forward and just thinking about the immediate future, but when you've got a champion basically crowned, yes, there's a fight for second, but stakes are definitely lowered at this point. Adam Blocker on the second part of a double-header trip in Australia. He has just finished enjoying a rain-soaked Bathurst 1000. Now enjoying some of the scenery of Australia. A cold Australia, it must be said, at least to some of the places that he's been going, and then getting ready to go and watch MotoGP at Phillip Island, maybe just trying to suss out some of the various track details before we head there in the mid-part of November.
Yeah, Phillip Island's a fantastic circuit. Lots of high-speed corners, some definitely tricky areas of the track where it's easy to run wide, as we saw with the open race a couple seasons ago. So props to him. I'm sure he's enjoying himself over there. Some well-needed R&R away from all the commitments that he's had this year with the Real Life IndyCar Series as well.
Yes, no, I'm sure it is a relief to at least finally get a break from the relentless travel schedule. It's always a good
break away from the track to go to the track.
Yeah, no, I was trying to put a nice way to put that. So he's taken a break from racing by going to immerse himself in more racing. Although I have no doubt Australian motorsports culture is very, very different to what an IndyCar paddock must be like. That would be a very interesting talking point with someone like Scott McLaughlin, who's made that transition over. Kraus getting bottled up behind Tony Schowen, and this is where the team game will play a treat for Powersline Motorsports, because Tony Schowen can basically back Phil Kraus up into the path of Alexander Van der Sant, and that is exactly what's happening right now. But let's not forget as well, Van der Sant owes us a pit stop in about 18 laps or so.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any fines here in the IndyCar Series from Schowen or Powerslide, not like NASCAR. So really fantastic job here by Van der Sant on this alternative strategy to put himself in a position where some team strategy plays a role in potentially a P1 spot here. No doubt Phil's in an interesting spot too, because he still wants to get around Tony, but he doesn't want to give up the spot to Van der Sant. So really, really interesting decision here about how Phil plays this.
And I think maybe it's unfair to say that Tony's like intentionally slowing them down right now.
No, he's running his race.
Right.
He's entitled to be exactly where he is.
No, and to that point, right, Joshua Chin has been unable to close to the same degree that Alexander Van der Sant has been able to. This is where it got a little bit more dicey in towards turn one. Tony Schowen gets the message and says, all right, just go. Crucially, does not hold up Alexander Van der Sant for any longer than he has to. The gap is down to half a second.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't doing anything to intentionally hold Phil up, but definitely didn't want to hold up Alex Van der Sant at all, and moved out of the way pretty quickly for his teammate there at a 2. So what this did do was, as we said, bring this elastic gap.
Matt Taylor, sorry. A very early call to dive down to pit lane, but he's within the fuel window, and I think he's trying what I'm going to dub Van der Sant. He is going to try an almighty undercut to see how it sticks. And I like it for one reason and one alone, Adam. You are tire limited in pit lane. You are not limited by how much fuel is going in the car. You are limited by how much time it takes for the mechanics to replace the Firestone rubber on a Dallara IR18.
It's an aggressive strategy for sure. I mean, you're in a position towards the end of this race where you got to do something different. And if being aggressive on tire strategy and pit strategy nets you a few spots like it did Van der Sant, then for sure we'll be calling it the VDS strategy.
Mike Rigney trying to fend off Malechka, who was not as bold as his teammate Van der Sant, but just struggled in a way that Van der Sant has been able to just break out of the struggle. Not entirely clear in this battle for 7th, but by the time they're to the apex and the midpoint of turns 1 and 2 should be done, and now Malechka will work on closing an 8-10 deficit to the Ascari Autosport 09 of Mitchell Riggs. 6/10 is now the gap at the front of the field, so starting to stagnate very slightly. Remember, a 15-lap buffer and stagger between these drivers in terms of tires. Van der Sant is well and truly hitting the wall, so I put to you, Adam, why not pit early and make your final stint 40 laps, relieve some of the pain at the end of this run?
If you're Van der Sant, you're absolutely thinking, well, your strategy's baked anyways about the earliest you can box, and it works so well the first time, you got to be thinking about how it can work here for this final stint. But then the question is, if you're Phil, do you really take the risk of losing the track position that you lost in the second stint to Van der Sant and box the lap after to try to minimize the damage? One of the tenets of racing is you got to know who you're racing, and if Phil ends up staying up too late, he might end up being behind Van der Sant after the end of pit stop sequence.
So 7/10 the margin. Van der Sant elects to continue to roll for the time being, knocking on wood once again as I point this out, but don't forget a caution once again would change everything, just as it did the first time we had one in this race. I have noticed. What's your thought on the aggressive cut the curb line that Van der Sant seems to take every single lap?
if the car and your steering angle is such that it doesn't upset the car that much, then the shortest way around the track's likely going to be the fastest. Big fan of it, and I think that there's a mental tick that comes with just lightly ticking it, so you can feel the car just roll out a little bit to the wall on the exit of 2. Here he comes.
Yeah, I saw Mitchell Riggs in, and I was like, oh, a couple more in.
Speed.
Yeah, but I think Van der Sant's fine. The question will be for those in front if there was any speeding, but I don't think Brian Beard or Kite Bommersback found themselves in any trouble. Once again, Van der Sant tidy into the lane and into his box as well, and this is where he always excels, dropping from the jacks, releasing the clutch, and getting out as quickly as possible.
Just got to watch this traffic on exit, though. You don't want to be too close to them, end up losing time.
Got to watch the bumps through pit exit as well, because it's treacherous, especially midway through that corner. It's 8.1 seconds in the box for Alexander Van der Sant. Now the question is, how much pressure does Kraus feel to respond? He'll continue to run around, at least for the time being.
He's in clean air now. I think he's still thinking if a yellow comes out, he's got to try to insulate himself against the threat of a yellow. If he's going to end up getting behind Van der Sant, then so be it. He can try to fight with some fresher tires, but this is a really, really tough call here for Phil. Honestly, this could decide the fate of the race here if Van der Sant's able to undercut Phil and end up taking the lead.
I'm just trying to figure out why Kraus would elect to stay so far past. The only thing that I can really think about is he's just trying to protect himself from a potential caution, whether it be now or whether it be at the end of this race. Van der Sant is 1 lap down, although he is the first car 1 lap down.
And he's still running slow. Van der Sant's still running slower laps than Phil is out front. I'm sure Phil's probably pushing like a maniac here, trying to stay in the really low 22-second lap times to try to maximize the rest of these tires, use up all of his resources, and hopefully come out ahead of Van der Sant on the pit stop. This is going to be a crucial pit stop cycle, getting in and out of your box, in and out of the pit lane.
Because I think he saw Kraus, Pinheiro, Matthias Kraus, that is fighting hard. Now Pinheiro has got a spot on the podium provisionally, albeit we'll lose it once Van der Sant cycles back to where he should be. We've only got 12 minutes of this race still left to go. If we go green from here, Malechko will hit his box and hit his marks. Got a rather decent spot from which to drop and roll. And again, 8.1 seconds. Even though he stopped 5 laps after his teammate, it's the exact same time in the lane. It speaks to the point that I'm making. Phil Kraus is going to spend 25 seconds from cone to cone in pit lane, the same as Alexander Van der Sant. The question will be, does he have enough time to make up the time that he's losing right now?
Yeah, Phil's still running 22 dead lap times, where Van der Sant's in a little bit of traffic, running a little bit longer lap times, about a tenth or 2 tenths slower. It'll honestly just come down to how quick Phil's able to get in and out of his box and in and out of the pit lane that might make the difference here for this top spot.
Remember Watkins Glen when we had that fantastic duel between the 96 and the 19, and it really was on pit lane, on that drop and roll down the hill at Watkins Glen, where Van der Sant just looked so much more comfortable. They were matched corner for corner, basically everywhere else. You take your advantages where you find them. Andrew Kinsella becomes the next to make his final trip down pit lane, down to just 8 cars, so yet to make their final trip. Kalisto makes the dive as well. Phil Kraus is, I think, content to run this as long as feasibly possible, purely because of how much clean air he continues to have in front of him.
Yeah, his last 5 laps have all been 22 zeros within the same tenth of a second, so he's definitely trying to maximize the advantage that he's got here by having clean air and no one in front of him. He's able to push the car as hard as he wants to, and he's obviously got the settings for the in-car adjustments in a good spot where he can run the same lap times consistently over and over again, and that's going to put more pressure on Van der Sant to get around the traffic that he's stuck in right now as quickly as he can if he's able to have that information fed to him. He's all over the track here trying to make something happen here with this lap traffic, but they're just not working with him here.
There's only so much that you can do, and for Van der Sant, unfortunately,
He's in the same spot that Phil was in at the end of the last stint too. So what goes around comes around with lap traffic, and just like in multi-class racing, as we were talking about before, it giveth and taketh away.
Yes, that's a John Heindorf line. Speaking of which, it seems like a good opportunity for us to quickly have a chit-chat with 25 or so laps to go in this race, at the point where we basically are waiting for 6 cars to make a trip to pit lane, about the upcoming IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship, which starts this coming Sunday. Delighted to be part of that, and to have a officially sanctioned IMSA series here on iRacing. GTD and touring cars, a rather interesting combination, but it all starts at a familiar track, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, Adam.
No, it'll be a fantastic invitational series, or a series that will represent sim racing. Fantastic to see IMSA officially sanctioning a series that's going to have some of the best competition and best drivers in sim racing. It just honestly, more growth for the sport is better. The more eyes we have on sim racing and the skill that these drivers have, then the more we can have this fantastic hobby grow and develop a closer knit relationship to the real life series. As we see Phil come in now.
So Phil Kraus will dive in with about 23 odd laps to go. So the race leader will peel on in. Josh Chin extends a lap longer. Pinheiro, I would assume, would do so as well, especially given how good he was on fuel through the previous stint of the race. And so this is what we've been waiting for, the race off of pit lane. Now, where's Van der Sat in comparison to Philip Kraus, who is going to drop and roll from the best spot possible? Van der Sat still powering out of turn 4 as Kraus releases himself from the limiter, and it's, to be fair, I don't think it's even going to be close. The margin is going to be upwards of 2.5 seconds, and Phil Kraus looks on course to take what will be an 11th win in 19 races in 2022.
Yeah, you can see just how much time Alex Van der Sat lost there, the start of his third stint, having to deal with that lap traffic where Phil was able to overcut in clean air, run some really, really quick laps over and over again. Amazing consistency by Phil, which, again, is showing his championship pedigree. And Van der Sat, it's got to feel so bad for him now that he's sort of trapped with these a little bit older tires, but he's still sitting in a good spot here for maybe P2 if Josh has a decent pit exit here.
We'll find out.
Definitely for sure.
Van der Sat's already gone. The question will be, with 20 odd laps to go, does Joshua Chin have enough of a tire delta to be able to close what will be about a 3-second advantage once it's all cycled out? Pinheiro will be then the final car to drag us down pit road. We'll get a good indication up to top to bottom of how things will shake up as Mike Rigney on pit exit sees his cold tire still trying to come up to temperature. John Bader almost slides into the wall, but he's up to temperature already 15 laps into his run. And Matthias Kraus, I'm not sure exactly how this has happened, but he's gone from being in contention for a podium to fighting to stay inside the top 10.
Yeah, John absolutely wringing the neck there of that Indy car, trying to keep it on track and point it forward. As we see Adriano pit, this will be his last stop.
Okay. May have overreacted, because we still got at the very least... No, never mind, I was right. I'm not sure what's happened to Matthias Kraus here. I think he's maybe just misjudged the strategy. Pinheiro, 8.2 seconds will drop and roll. Should see him emerge around the top 5. There comes Mitchell Riggs. Pinheiro, well, he'll drop behind Riggs and Malechka. He might have to fight with Matt Taylor, who is coming out of turn 2 with a whole lot of momentum.
Yeah, it looks like Matt Taylor's going to be the one that's going to put the most amount of pressure on Adriano here while he brings his tires up to temperature and pressure. But there's only 18 laps here left to go, so it's going to be, or 17 laps as we took over to lap 194. It's going to be tough for Adriano to really maximize these new tires and try to collapse here on P5, Robert Malechka. I don't know if he might have just waited a tad bit too long, hoping out for a yellow.
There's a look at that battle for 5th on back, and it is close, well and truly there. I think maybe Kraus just got caught out with undercuts, potentially. Not once, but twice, and that will very much add itself up. Joshua Chin, by the way, still 2 seconds back from Alexander Van der Sat, and with short time in this race, I don't really think there's enough opportunity for Chin to catch, let alone pass, the 96 car.
No, it's definitely going to be difficult for Josh to catch Van de Sande, especially with Van de Sande having more or less clean air here. Just the one-lap car ahead of him and Tyler Graff. And then the big gap, obviously, to Phil Krause ahead of him. There's only 14 to go here. These laps tick off real quick. The one thing that could bring all this back together is if we get one of those colored flags. But we'll hope, against all hope, that we don't get one of those and spoil this race for any of the drivers that are having really good runs based on strategy.
Yes, the flag, the color of Jason Brophy's car. And if you're wondering why I keep talking about Jason Brophy's car, which is 100% yellow, it's because he refuses to acknowledge this fact and is still trying to convince me to refer to it as Grello. No, it is not. That is a Manti color. Your color is yellow.
That's a made-up word.
It is also a made-up word, if we're being honest. Jason Brophy is 21st. And again, got to feel bad for him. He'll finish this race 2 laps down, but it was a 1, 2, and 3 in qualifying for the private label Team Hype. They will end up 1 and 3 with Jason Brophy down in 21st, potentially 20th as he fights with Alex Guyon. It's not done for second. It's not done by any means. 7 tenths and closing. Here comes the King of Chins.
Yeah, this is the effect of a little bit fresher tire here. We see Van de Sande really trying to maximize everything, really rolling over that curb there. This is honestly going to come down to whether or not Josh Chin has enough tire, although it looks like from where he's sitting right now, he's gaining quite quickly on Van de Sande. Got to look for a little bit of clean air. So we see Malechka on his way around the outside of Adriano.
He's trying to fend off Pinheiro on the fresher tires. Malechka's run 24 laps already compared to just the 8 for Pinheiro. It was always going to be a losing battle.
Touch there?
But did Pinheiro hit the wall, let alone touch Malechka after that?
Thought I heard a little bit of a rub there.
I definitely
Not a nudge,
thought
but a rub.
I saw a knock rather than a rub. Back to the battle for second. 9 to go. It's white and purple versus purple and black. But which purple machine will be the fastest one here at Milwaukee? It is very much the battle for second place honors, but again, that has been the story of this year. I said we are, 10 wins out of 18 races coming into this one, but that doesn't say the rest of the story, which is a podium every single time Philip Krause has shown up here in 2022.
No, absolutely. Phil's been a benchmark for this series for the better part of, for the entirety of this year and even the tail end of last year. Absolutely imperious, his drive over the course of this race and the whole season. So it's no surprise that he's leading this race by a little bit more than 5 seconds, leading more or less flag to flag. Fantastic job by the champion-elect once again.
Yes, I think effectively a flag-to-flag victory here, even though it will, of course, not be scored and classified that way. Domination, you very rarely see. We have seen plenty of short-track races where one driver has been strong, but there's always been an element of chaos that has mixed things up, and Krause has navigated it perfectly, has navigated the challenge of Alexander Van de Sande as well, as much as maybe I was hoping there would be more of a fight at the front of the field. Less than 5 laps to go, though, and Phil Krause is about to make it 4 to go. 4 races are left. It will become 3 at the end of this one. A trip to Kansas, a trip down under to Phillip Island, and then to where all Lionheart championships are decided, a trip to the Auto Club Speedway for double point and a 500-mile showdown on a weekend. What a way to finish it off. Pinheiro, though, is looking to close off the season with a bang, and he'll fight with Mitchell Riggs for 4th, but the Ascari Autosport car holds on for now.
Yeah, just that momentum on the outside keeps Riggs ahead. Going to be clawing with his nails in order to try to keep this spot here. Adriano's on much younger tires. Got to try to use different lines here to keep air on the nose. You see Adriano trying that really wide entry with a late apex. He's going to have a little bit of a run here into 3.
Will it be a block? No block offered from Mitchell Riggs, and now that Pinheiro is alongside, it's basically done and dusted. Riggs will try and fight it back, but the Brazilian with the purchase from the Firestone rubber will get it done through turn 1 as much as Riggs wants to fight it. Pinheiro has gone from 28th to 4th, through the course of this race, but while they fight for 4th position, it is Phil Krause who starts the final mile here in Milwaukee. What a season it's been, and Powerslide have tried in recent memory to stop the streak. Blocker Malechka winning a streak of 4 in a row, but Philip Krause bounces back to take consecutive victories once again and wins the Next Level Racing Milwaukee 200 presented by ButtKicker. It's his 11th win in 19 races in 2022. Alexander Van der Sant will be able to secure 2nd at the end, 7/10 clear of Joshua Chin. The early gamble paying off for Van der Sant, although it would have been worrying moments that first cycle when the caution flew. Adriano Pinheiro, of course, 4th, with Mitchell Riggs 5th. Matt Taylor, another one of our big climbers. Lionel Callisto, double-digit gains for him as well. But as Phil Krause celebrates once more, he enters HyperX victory lane for what is becoming an all too familiar sight. It is win number 13 for Phil Krause in series history.
Yeah, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Phil Krause with another dominant performance here at Milwaukee. Absolutely fantastic race by him, and fantastic job by Van der Sant working his way up into the top 3, and everyone else who had double-digit spot increases as well. Fantastic.
Those burnouts are too perfect. I think just look at how perfect they are, Adam.
I mean, fantastic drive, fantastic burnout. I mean, checking off all the boxes here by Phil Krause.
Yeah, it should be unfair to have that much talent. It is yet another win in the storied 2022 for the 19 private label team hype of Philip Krause. 5 seconds clear at the end. Alexander Van der Sant able to grab 2nd, working his way forward after gambling early with an early pit stop. The caution tried to interfere with his plans, but Van der Sant was not to be stopped. Joshua Chin was flying in practice, able to grab yet another podium in his Lionheart career, while Adriano Pinheiro finally gets a result he'll be feeling he worked hard for, but he deserves the 56 Brazilian independent entry. 4th for him, Mitchell Riggs behind in 5th. Robert Malechka will be slightly disappointed to have not been as effective as his teammate Van der Sant, but he finishes 6th with Taylor, Kinsella, Krause and Badeford behind them. At Taylor plus 14, Andrew Kinsella plus 9, it's Matthias Krause minus 5. We're slightly disappointed with how this race finished up. Andrew Marquez, Lionel Callisto, as well as Mike Rigney, the final finishers on the lead lap with just 13 cars able to stay 1 mile within your race leader. Tyler Graf, Stefan Larkamp, Kite Bombers back, Brian Beard, Tony Showen, Bradley Sexton and Jason Brophy make up the top 20. Poor Jason Brophy will be thinking that should have been a podium and a clean sweep for the private label team hype. It will be Alex Guyon, Adam Frazier, the final finishers here today. Brian Carey, Caleb Bensi, Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Ron Hacker started, but troubles along the way, none of them even making it to the halfway mark in today's event. That leads us into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, the makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloudline of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. And while we wait for Phil Krause to continue and finish his victory celebrations in HyperX victory lane, we'll go in reverse order and we'll be joined by Joshua Chin. Josh, a difficult race in terms of how long and draining it can be, but ultimately a double podium for the private label team hype. Just unable in those closing stages to get past Alexander Van der Sant. It was not for a lack of effort.
Yeah, the tires definitely were making a difference there. I'd considered not taking tires to try and get the advantage on the stop time, and I'm glad I didn't, because I think I probably would have gotten past, or had a good shot at getting past, and still finishing 3rd, so it was worth a shot. Started out with qualifying the same exact times as Phil, and that was kind of the race over from there. Whoever started on the pole was going to have a really good shot. Alex gave us a good run for our money with the off-cycle pit strategy. We didn't think it was going to be as close as it was with that, so kudos to them. Him and Adriano both worked out really great, both ends of the spectrum on strategy to kind of get up there and try and fight for the win.
Yeah, I think we've got to ask about qualifying. Have you ever been in a session where not just one lap, but both laps have been identical between you and literally any other car?
I've been on iRacing for 11 years, and I can safely say I've never done that, let alone with a teammate.
Yeah, I think I was probably just as shocked as all those watching. I can't imagine what it must have been like for you watching, already having finished in qualifying and seeing those times. As we wrap up this season, of course, it's been a partial campaign for you in 2022. Kansas, Phillip Island, and Auto Club still to go. Are we expecting to see you around for all three, and what are you hoping to get out of these final 3 races of the year?
Well, if I can go 3 races without food poisoning like Barber, then that'll be great. Honestly, just trying to get top 10 in points. It's right there on the cusp. I know some guys that are in that kind of 5th to 9th range had some bad races, so hopefully get up there. It's been a good season overall. There's been a few problems here and there, but for the amount of time I've been able to put into the season, it's been really good overall, and it's been a good season for the rest of the team, especially with more than likely getting the team championship locked up here in the next race or two.
It's a 17th podium to add to your collection, Joshua Chin. Congratulations on 3rd. We'll head over from Joshua Chin to the man that you fought all the way to the line with. We're chatting with Alexander Van der Sande. And Alex, let's ask first about the struggles in qualifying. Private label team hype 1, 2, and 3. Powerslide maybe not finding the in-car tools to get the most out of Go Fast time.
Yeah, we were definitely missing something there, and it was just really hard to get a lap in practice too, and so you lose that little bit of confidence. But we definitely had the right tools for the long run there. We were Rob, Andrew, and I were the 3 fastest cars on track 3 laps in the stint. So yeah, really that made up for a lot of the struggles in qualifying for sure. Just kind of got unlucky with the coming out in some lap traffic battles. But yeah, overall, really happy with 2nd and being able to move through the field like that.
And even before that final cycle of pit stops, that call to come in, not just slightly early, but very early in that first call. What was going through your mind? How far did your heart drop when the caution came out for the first time?
I was pretty mad about it. Yeah, just a lot of wrecks in the pit cycles this year, and it's probably the 3rd race that I've run into trouble with that. But the pace-wise, it was absolutely worth it, and it still worked out in the end. But yeah, definitely very frustrating. Probably should have still stayed out later. It wouldn't have helped, but I expected more people to be just dividing the race into quarters and pit around lap 50. But a lot of people went way later and ran out the fuel. So that was a bit unexpected, and I should have stayed out longer and had less of a tire advantage, or had less of a tire disadvantage, I should say. But yeah, still it was fine. It was I don't know if I could have won this race, but it would have been closer at least.
And at the very least, I mean, we are really talking about... we should talk to George about getting a Best of the Rest award, because in a year where Phil Krause has been so great, it's the battle for 2nd that is now intriguing us. This is great points for you with just 3 races to go after this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was close. Rob and I were very close in practice, and for that first stint, we were nose to tail. Just actually pitting early and getting trapped a lap down like that, I actually had more heat in my tires from the restart, so I could jump a lot more people and just kind of run away from him. So yeah, still working together as teammates, of course, but it's we're both going for it. It's 2nd best is, I guess, the best I can hope for now.
It's been still a good year for you, Alex, and I still remember that race at Watkins Glen as one of the most fun races we've had in 2022. Congratulations on the 2nd. We'll see you next time we go racing at Kansas.
Yeah, thanks, Arjuna.
Alexander Van der Sande from 7th position to 2nd, and it was the call. And maybe if he comes out somewhere different, not in dirty air, finds some clean air, he fights with Phil Krause, but instead it is a 5-second advantage for the number 19 at the end of the race. Back-to-back wins once again, Phil, but it all started in qualifying and putting it on pole and matching your teammates' laps not once, but twice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you didn't mention it, but yeah, we matched laps on both laps. It's kind of insane. It'd be interesting after the fact if we both compile our replays and see where we gained and lost, because identical laps once is already insane enough. Identical laps twice is just bonkers. But yeah, it was a somewhat straightforward race. Milwaukee is always really hard to overtake on, and I'd say it was a little bit more so tonight. The car was just quite understeery mid-corner, but yeah, all in all, it was just a really good race again for the private label Team ButtKicker car.
And again, it did start in qualifying, right? 1, 2, and 3. You guys must have found something in qualifying to just get the most out of it. Not just on the second lap, but the first lap as well, because we did notice you were like a considerable bit faster than a lot of those around you.
Yeah, I think there were a few different ways you could go to approach the lap. We went for the fast first lap just to try to get the tires in a better operating range for the second, and it definitely seemed to work out. It was a shame for Jason that he got his, I think he had some sort of packet loss issue that lost him a lap, and he was never able to recover from that. But still, 2 cars on the podium tonight, so always a good thing to see.
Couple more races in 2022, of course. Kansas Auto Club and Phillip Island still left to go. I mean, in terms of the remaining races, Auto Club must surely be the one where you're like, I want to sign off with the double points, Triple Crown victory to bookmark what a dominant year 2022 has been. I
don't know, Arjuna. I got to be kind of biased. Pagil Island, I really want to win that race for some reason.
How are we saying it? Because I thought it was Pagil Island.
Pagilip Island.
Pagilip Island. Okay, I like it. Well, we'll look forward to that one midway through November. Congratulations, Phil. Yet another victory. We'll see you next time we go racing at Kansas.
Yep. Cheers, Arjuna.
Yeah, another post-race interview with Philip Kraus from HyperX Victory Lane. Thank you to all our drivers for their time. But Adam, as we get ready to say goodbye, we look forward to the next time that we go racing. It's been back-to-back for these drivers, but they get a slight bit of respite. Round 20 takes us to Kansas, but not until November the 2nd. And then they get 2 weeks off, and then they get almost a month off. It is the time of the season where drivers are allowed to focus in on what they need to do.
Yeah, it'll be, I'm sure, a welcome little bit of rest here that the drivers are able to have a little stretch here before we finish off the season strong with Kansas and the double points race at Auto Club. But before we get there, we just got to talk about this race quickly. Again, another fantastic job by Phil, controlling the race from top to bottom. Some alternate strategies that ended up getting the race sorted out. Fantastic job by Van Nissan, and hey, that qualifying was pretty exciting and really unusual when you can have the same lap time get set on lap 1 and 2 by the top 2.
I've seen it happen once before, and legitimately only once, and I've covered about 500 odd events in the last 2 and a bit years. I've never seen it happen in 2 consecutive laps. That is just how rare of an occasion, a moment that it truly is. This is a look at the schedule, though, as we get ready to say goodbye. Plenty more excitement still to come, and of course 2 more competitions in the Lionheart Suite, Lionheart Speedway Series on Monday nights, and the Lionheart Retro Series. Still have plenty of excitement for you to keep focused on. But with all of that said, it is time for us to say goodbye. And before we do that, we take the time to thank those that make this possible, starting with the title sponsors of your 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. ButtKicker hat pit hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today, passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. And it's not just them. but so many more that make this happen. To learn more about the Lionheart Racing Series, its partners, and the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts forward, head to lionheartracingseries.com, while you can stay connected with latest news within the virtual paddock by staying online on social media connected with the world of Lionheart. The next time Lionheart is in competition, it is with the Lionheart Speedway Series next Monday for the HyperX 175 at Richmond. The following Thursday, we go racing in the Lotus 79s at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Gomez Sim Industries Grand Prix of Montreal, presented by SimRace 24/7. It's a couple of weeks off for the drivers of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, but they get focused next for the ButtKicker Kansas 200, presented by Next Level Racing. Thank you so much for joining us here on RaceSpot TV for round 19 of 22. On behalf of everyone behind the scenes, for Adam Crane alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time from Kansas Speedway for what's bound to be an electric race. For now, we bid you farewell, and we congratulate the inevitable Philip Kraus.